there YouTube, it's Clormo with another Logic Pro X tutorial on my Alchemy Explain mini-series that I'm doing right now, going in depth into all the parameters that make up the instrument known as Alchemy. And today I'm going to be talking about the import browser, which is part of the source master controls that we saw in the previous video. Then on the next video, we're going to talk about the source subpage controls, so everything's tied together. Before I go into the video, as usual, this video it's part of a Amazon gift card giveaway round. All you need to do is be a subscriber and comment on this video for a chance to win. Make sure that you check the description and the initial comment that I make so that you are not out of date when you're making your comment or subscribing, because otherwise you won't win anything. So this is a disclaimer that I will make on every video, as I have said before. And with that being said, let's just jump right in, because this should be a little bit quicker, even though we're gonna have its own video. So you remember this window, right? We have our four sources. We just need to focus on one, because we are going to be dealing with this import audio. But before we go into that, just wanted to let you know that I'm still carrying that MIDI information from the Apple loop, that guitar information, and I changed the preset again. I'm gonna play it just to notice the difference. Actually sounds half decent. I may use it for a beat. I don't know. Just letting you know, I may use it and tweak it. Anyway, enough of that. So how do you access the import audio? If you didn't watch the previous video, just go to your source drop down, go to import audio, and this window pops up. So you have your import browser, looks exactly like that, right? Looks like a browser. You have these three columns here, you have some other parameters down here, and the first thing that I need to let you know is that when you go into import audio, Alchemy is very specific with what you can import, so don't get confused with what you can. You can import WAV files, AIF files, and EXS sound files, and you can add them with any of the analysis modes here. So it would be additive, spectral, additive plus spectral, granular, and sampler. What do each of these do? Well, they are better suited for something specific, and it's also a similar approach to the flex time, right? The different algorithms are better for a typical type of audio information, like for example a complex sample or just a one note sample or chords, etc. It's a similar concept. So additive lets you have one of the most detailed manipulation of sounds, and specifically good for one notes, like single notes, rather than chords or more complex sounds. For that, for more complex sounds, you would use spectral most of the time. Additive and spectral, it's obviously a combination of both, and you would want to use that when you use something in additive and it didn't quite work, like maybe a flute sound or some wind sound, something that the additive didn't catch a noisier portion of that audio. So it's still better for those one notes that you couldn't get, right? Then granular, it's better for drum loops and percussion, but you can use it for anything. Any of these modes you can use it for anything, especially if you want to get creative later when you get comfortable using Alchemy overall. And then the sampler is just gonna be your normal. I want to use the word normal just to ease you into using it, but the sampler that Alchemy has, right, that you can access with any of these analysis modes, it's far from normal. It's very powerful, has way more options than the ESX24, and way better results too. So but the sampler is intended to just play the audio file as it was originally recorded or conceived, right? So you would use that if you just want to play around with chopping samples that you would do with the EXS24, but instead loading it into a source here in Alchemy. We're going to see more of that functionality later on the next videos. With that out of the way, then, just real quick, just to explain a little bit the browser parameters or the window. Very self-explanatory. First, you have your places column, and your places column is nothing more than locations on your hard drive and your different libraries. So if you don't have your own libraries, though, like if you don't have your own sample library at this point, Logic already has Alchemy tell you, hey, you have the Alchemy samples and the EXS factory samples available to you from this window. So if you don't know where to go, why don't you start here? So if you click on any of them, then you can access the different folders, and you have access to all of those samples, which will appear in the second column, which is the samples column. Another thing that you can do, obviously, access your own drives and your own locations, but you can also set favorites. For example, if I wanted to set this as a favorite, I would click on this star here, and then it will appear automatically down here in the favorites. I'm not gonna do that, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I want to use a specific sample that I want to keep using in the next set of videos as applicable. And I already saved a jazz trumpet loop pack. And I'm gonna click there, and I can see the samples that are in that folder, which takes us to the drop zone. Now, before I go to the drop zone, keep in mind that just selecting one of the samples and clicking import, it's gonna put the sample, the audio file, into your source, and that will be all you need to know, really. Now that you know that the different analysis modes, it's gonna play a factor into what you're importing or how you're importing stuff, then you can, let's say, if you want to do one, click import, depending on which one you chose, boom, you're done. But if you want to do multiple, you have different ways of doing it. You can just command click multiple, drag and drop them. No matter where you go with that red line, it's just gonna neatly organize them. Or I can do it one by one. If you have this preview button here selected or on, whenever you choose a sample, it's gonna preview it for you. From here, when you're in the drop zone, though, you have two options available for each, or for any of the samples that you intend to load. All you need to do is select them, and again, I'm going to turn off the preview. If you right click or command click, you can delete, which will take it off, or you can move to a new RR group. And RR, if I'm not mistaken, stands for round robin here. I'm not clear what that exactly means. It's just what I do know is if I want to, let's say, put these in a different group, it's gonna do that, and I can I'm supposed to be able to collapse them, but I don't know what that's not doing it. But anyway, I'm gonna delete these guys from here and just keep that for now. So before I load that into the source and start closing the video, one thing I want to note on the additive plus spectral analysis mode that's important to note, and it's that by default, when you, let's say I chose that, and that's a trumpet sound, so actually I think I want to use it. By default, as I was saying, when you import an audio file to a source using that analysis mode, the spectral component is going to be imported and played with the spectral element set to noise resynth mode. What does that mean? Is that when you play that spectral data in that mode, it's gonna make a different effect, which will probably be what you want. As I was saying in the beginning, it may catch those noisier portions of the sound that the additive mode alone wouldn't catch, and in turn produce a better result. So other than that, the that spectral element of the additive and spectral is going to have an internal high pass control that it's automatically set to a high value. So it's going to exclude those frequencies that would clash with the additive portion, again giving you a better result, a more faithful result of your sound. And in combination with the source and the other different parameters that we saw in the previous video from our source master controls, is going to give you a better sounding audio file, instead of creating artifacts or other stuff that you may not want. Granted, again, this is not the XX24, so you probably won't run into that a lot, but it's not perfect, right? And it takes processing power and translating all this audio information. So keep that little thing in mind when going with additive and spectral analysis mode, okay? Now, going to the right, you have your mapping menu, and your mapping pop-up menu has two options: pitch or drum. Pitch is set by default, and pitch, what it does, it's just gonna act as having a sample in your ESX24, drag and dropping into a key and then dragging it across. Or if you know what the root note is and you want to play it chromatically, right, going up in pitch, then pitch mode is going to give you that result. So you are going to fill out your keyboard, and your original root note is going to play the sound at its original pitch, its original form, and as you go up and down, it's going to change the pitch of it. Pretty simple. Drum, what it's going to do is going to map each sample to a single key. So if you had multiple in your drop zone, it's going to put them all into one key. It's good to use this mode to map sounds such as a set of drum hits or chords that are not going to transpose correctly if you pitch them, right? If you were to use pitch mode and those set of sounds are not going to sound good as you go up and down, then you should use drum, probably, especially if you're going to use drum sounds, unless you want to get creative and go just a tad finer or coarser in a kick or a snare sound. Drums are going to be probably better for you. So, okay, to the far right, I already talked about the preview. Import is just going to import, and cancel is just going to get out of here. It's going to do the same thing as pressing the X. So let's just import a few things into the source. Let's do a single one and then multiple, so you can see the result and close out the video. So if you want to import one, we're going to import just this guy. I already said that I'm going to make sure you have your analysis mode set. I'm going to set it to pitch, and I'm going to hit import. So it's going to take a little bit, depending again obviously on the power of your system, and it's going to load it into your source, and there it is. It's right there, and this already had some information, so I'm curious to know if I did it correctly. Again, if I were to go, let's just give you a little preview. If I go to my sub page controls, I should be able to go to this options here and fine tune that audio file, and I can also go to edit, and there's that waveform, but we're gonna see that later. Right, so let's go back here. Let's just see what that did. Okay, so we just imported something using the import audio option for your source. Let's see how that plays with all of these guys together. I gave it a wow. I gave it a result that I was not expecting at all, and it sounds great. Wow. Like I said in the overview video when I was about alchemy, I was gonna learn this more seriously as I was making the tutorials, and there you go. I learned something new. Let's just cancel out of here. Let's do something. Let's just clear that. Let's make it a saw wave again. And now let's import 4 of these. Maybe I wanna choose some random ones. Let's keep it at you know what, let's just use granular just to see what that does. Okay, so it's loading a few, so it may take a while, but let's see what that did. Obviously, because I used granular, it didn't give me that great of a result, but it sounds great. See, let's actually try that again, but using the proper or the more the better suited one. Notice that before I close the video, there's this Formant button here. Remember the Formants from the ebook synth, the ebook 20? Well, that kind of works kind of in the same way. So if you are in any of these 3 modes, you have access to the Formant, and similar to the ebook 20, what that's going to do is just do a further analysis of your audio, and the results are going to be sent into the Formant filter, which is again in your source controls. You have access to in your sub page. You have access to those, and in turn again it's going to give you a better result, or should give you a better result, because it's going to analyze all of those noisy parts and all that stuff, right? Let's try that again one last time. Let's see what that gives us. I don't think it's going to give that much of a difference. You notice it's taking longer because it's trying to make sure that what you're trying to do there, it's faithful. Yeah, it's not going to give you that great of a result. But it sounds crazy though. And that's if you loaded multiple. But you can see how much different this is from your normal run-of-the-mill EXX24. So with that, I'm gonna close the tutorial once again. In the next video, we're gonna keep going through the sources portion, but we're gonna talk about the source sub-page controls and see what you have available there, and keep working a little bit more too with this one of the samples that I just loaded into one of the sources, just to see how those options relate and what other things you have open, because it depends on your analysis mode, what different options you have, and so on and so forth. So thanks as usual. If you like this, please like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, share with others that you think might be interested in. Contact me in any of my social media pages. You can see the graphic down below. You can send me questions, you can send me comments or requests for any other tutorials in the future, and as always I will respond as soon as I can. Okay, thank you very much. Peace out, YouTube.